Last night we got a PlayStation State of Play showcasing the gameplay reveal for Horizon Forbidden West, and bloody hell, it looks fantastic. Now, back in 2017 when Horizon Zero Dawn released, it sort of came out of nowhere. At least that was the case from where I was sitting, as at the time I didn't actually own a PlayStation and didn't get one until the following year. Not proud of joining so late because it was 100% worth it, and the amount of fun I've had with PlayStation since is surreal. And even still only got round to playing Horizon Zero Dawn in 2020. And while it did take me a little bit to actually get into it, eventually I found myself loving this game. So when the sequel was announced last year, it didn't take long for me to come to the realization that I'd fully bought into the anticipation for the continuation to Aloy's journey. Trailers announcing a game are one thing, but now we've actually got a better idea of what that is going to look like as a game. And even though the demo they showcased was only 14 minutes worth, I think there are a lot of positives here worth highlighting. First and most obviously, the game visually looks stunning, but I figured people would only need to watch the state of play to figure that one out, so me saying it really doesn't add anything to anything. So we're going to move on. One thing I can appreciate improvements to appears to be the HUD. Now, I'm not sure how cluttered it's going to look in its default setting when the game launches, but Zero Dawn's HUD felt a little cramped at times. But from the little bit we've seen of the Forbidden West HUD, it appears as if it may be a little bit sleeker, which I can appreciate. It's hardly my biggest peeve with video games ever, so I just wanted to get that out of the way quickly. And hopefully the sleeker looking HUD is a theme that we see consistent in the game, because I can always appreciate a good HUD. Gameplay-wise, the demo looks smooth. In the short span of time, we see a large variety of mechanics that all flow relatively smoothly between one another. The gameplay doesn't appear to differ too significantly from how it was in Horizon Zero Dawn. Obviously, there appears to have been loads of touch-ups, but we get to see snippets of smoothly functioning stealth and smoothly functioning combat, and I can always appreciate a game that can do both and then make them smooth in between one another, as well as ranged combat, which is sort of its own thing, which I'm sure will follow Horizon Zero Dawn's emphasis on finding weak spots in enemies and exploiting those to the best of your ability. And that's sort of the fun of Horizon Zero Dawn's enemy archetypes, as the point is you scan them, you find where the weaknesses are, and then you figure out the best way to exploit those weaknesses to the best of your ability, which often gives you no choice but to rely on diversifying your combat playstyle, and thus you actually get to use a lot of the game's mechanics because you sort of have to. I reckon the vast majority of combat differences in Horizon Forbidden West will come from these new enemy archetypes rather than any radical changes to an already functioning system. Though apparently Forbidden West puts emphasis on tactics by giving the player a huge variety of weaponry. The PlayStation blog lists Aloy's spear for close quarters combat, enabling a new set of combos, bows with the specialized ammo types that can strip armor off machines and expose their weak spots, adhesive grenades which can be fired from slingshots which temporarily stall foes, plus many more which I'd love to hear more about that can be upgraded at a workbench. Of course, we see the climbing mechanics in action, and Aloy has a new tool in this, which is the pull caster, which speeds up the climbing process, which can be used to get her quickly out of trouble, which is another avenue to simply go from moving through the world to getting on top of a high spot or getting out of the way of a machine you don't want to fight. And then there's the shield wing, which allows Aloy to safely descend from great heights, and it can also be used to navigate above enemies for surprise attacks. I see these as potentially beneficial additions to the platforming aspect of Horizon Forbidden West. However, I don't feel like the game should rely on these new systems to be usable all the time in every scenario, otherwise it just becomes a gimmick. How they're used in the demo, they don't appear to be gimmicks, they do appear to have purpose, so fingers crossed that's representative of how they're going to function and where they're going to be useful throughout the game, with some leeway for creativity of course, as that's where they'll really begin to earn their stripes. And while having a purpose definitely justifies them being there, there's also a point where they have to stop being too useful, to keep the emphasis on using as many of the mechanics at your disposal as possible, which is what Horizon Zero Dawn excelled at. But if any game can get the right balance, it's this one. One thing that really got me excited in this demo was the diving. Many open world games especially have underwater areas that you can dive under and access, but for the most part, even in the best of those games, a lot of the time it's completely empty and miserable, with not much actually going on outside of specific quests and missions. In the demo, we get to see a vibrant underwater section which shows just as much attention to detail as the surface stuff. Aloy has like a diving mask thing which allows her to stay submerged for as long as you want. That being said, there are enemy types that you can find in the water, so while the breath limit has gone away, as this is a space the game actually wants you to be in, whereas many just don't, there's still a risk element to be on the lookout for, and I can appreciate that. But my biggest takeaway from this underwater gameplay is just how gorgeous it looks. We see it used in the gameplay demo as a navigation option. Hopefully there's more to it than that, where sometimes we'll just go into the water to find stuff that's down in the deep. And if that's the case, then it looks like it's going to be mad fun to explore. Away from discussing the gameplay itself, the demo showed the return of one of the characters from Horizon Zero Dawn. I'm led to believe that Erend is something of a fan favourite, and I certainly liked him as a character, so it's good to see him returning in the sequel. You could even compare his face from that game to this one to gauge the visual improvements, and there certainly are some there, but it's good to see the return of characters other than Aloy. It means Aloy isn't just alone in this world, and there's a world-building presence that carries from Horizon Zero Dawn into Forbidden West. The announcement trailer from about a year ago shows that Silence is back as well, and I reckon he's going to develop into a more antagonist role. Character carryover tends to be really good for sequels like this, so I really look forward to seeing who else may be returning, and how they develop and differ to the newer characters that will inevitably be introduced alongside them. The implementation of characters from the previous title also implies that this sequel is going to be more involved with those characters, which means there's less of a chance that the game is going to treat its audience like idiots, as it may continue arcs and developments that we saw in Horizon Zero Dawn. There are some game sequels that have tried to isolate this as much as possible to keep the game separate and to avoid having the playing of both required to understand the full story. And while I can appreciate and respect consumer accessibility, I don't feel like that should come at the expense of investment. So fingers crossed Horizon Forbidden West will feature some payoffs that were set up in Horizon Zero Dawn. None necessarily spring to mind, but hey, maybe there's some subtle shit. Though I would love to see Silence, for example, develop into something of a villain. Maybe that's just me, I don't know, but it just seems like a natural development for that character based on where we left him in Horizon Zero Dawn. Back to what's relevant to this video specifically, I'm hoping that Horizon Forbidden West has a narrative that's enriched by the context provided by Zero Dawn in a way that's more natural for a sequel rather than a game that treats its audience like idiots or over-explains things to account for people who wouldn't understand it based on not playing the game that came before. Based on what we know, I am expecting it to do the right thing for the sake of the storytelling integrity, but you can really never be too sure anymore, can you? Maybe I'm just too burned by Ubisoft games. I need to stop, I apologise. The final thing of note for me is that we still don't know when this game is actually coming out. We are yet to receive a release date, and honestly, I'm fine with that. Guerilla took to Twitter to say thanks for watching our Horizon Forbidden West gameplay reveal. We don't have an exact release date just yet, but development is on track and we will have an update for you very soon. Thank you, as always, for your ongoing support. And so I'm just content with knowing that they'll hopefully announce a release date when it's ready. I know Cyberpunk sort of damaged people's view of companies that tell us that the game will be ready when it's ready, and truthfully you can never be too sure what the game's going to be like when it does release, regardless of how it's marketed. But hopefully Guerilla holds off announcing a release date until they're absolutely certain that the game is ready, though they did tweet that they'll have an update for us very soon, though what that update is actually going to entail, it may not be a release date, it may just be a development update with regards to where they're up to. But I certainly don't believe they need to rush to announce a release date just yet. Sure, I don't want to be waiting years and years to play a game that was announced in 2020, but with any luck, if it's anything like the first game, it'll be worth it whenever it drops. And by the looks of it, there's plenty of familiarity there, so fingers crossed. My big takeaway from the demo is that Horizon Forbidden West looks fantastic. Would I call myself hyped? No, not necessarily. There are plenty of games to play and things to do in the meantime to keep me occupied until this game comes out, whenever that is, and I'm happy to wait however long it happens to be, I don't care. But from what we've seen, I'm personally satisfied with how it looks. But for more information on this game, I suppose we'll have to wait and see. And that's alright. So thank you all for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed. Be sure to go ahead, leave a like, subscribe, share the channel with your friends and all that wonderful stuff. That would be super fantastic. As well as tell me what you think about this down in the comment section. I would really love to know. And with any luck, I'll be seeing you all very soon with another video at some point. But until next time, take care and goodbye.